Welcome back to the Gospel Sports Truth Podcast, and it's one of the most wonderful times of year. It's the time of year when you have the MLB playoffs, you have a Thursday night football game. We are gearing up for what will come with the NBA. WNBA in full swing with playoffs. It's just a lot of sports going on right now, and gotta love that time of year. Any time of year where there's multiple sports going on of interest is my time of year. I'm your Jose, the fantasy football fiend, and I have my guy, your guy, BK Wins. Holla at the people, BK.
Hey y'all.
So yeah, remember we are on YouTube. You can follow us at the Gospel STP. And if you haven't followed us on Facebook, it's the Gospel Sports Truth Facebook group. BK, what's on your mind this week, my guy?
Well, you talked about the Major League Baseball postseason, and it's not playoff baseball in the Bronx if we're not bashing Boone. So you and I, we both love the Yankees, and I know they're currently right now playing a winner go home game 3. Obviously, we want them to win and face the Blue Jays in the ALDS. But I'm going to ask you, what the hell was Boone doing in game 1? So you pull out.
I can tell you what he wasn't doing. He wasn't doing his job, but go on. I'm sorry.
So your ace, Max Fried, you pull him after 6 innings in a must-win game. Yeah, I know he threw 100 pitches, but it's the postseason. He's your ace. You watch the other guy, Alex Cora, pitch crochet as long as he possibly could. How'd that work out? Then 2 of your better hitters all season long, you bench because it's a lefty. You sit Chisholm and Rice? Really? Come on. And by the way, for those of you who are watching, just to let you know, we're now middle of the 4th, no score in game 3. The decisions for the lineup were terrible. You win or lose with your best possible lineup available, and you never want to pull your ace early. And then you went to Weaver, who's been inconsistent for literally 2 months now. This is not 2024 where he was unhittable. This is 2025 where he's been, we'll say, above average. So this drives me nuts. Make it make sense to me. Am I wrong?
Let me ask you this. Is this enough of a follow-up that if we can't put enough points on the board this evening and end up going home in the wild card, is this enough to get rid of Boone or no?
Well, look, I'm going to answer this 2 ways. You and I both know I would have fired Aaron Boone 2 years ago. So, this is no mystery. I can't stand how he manages games, specifically in the postseason. It's like you have to beat 2 teams. You have to overcome Boone, and you have to beat the other team, and that's hard to do in the playoffs. But they're not going to fire him. They gave him he signed a 2-year deal at the end of or before the season started. And to be honest with you, I've heard rumblings. I listened to the Yankees' very own Michael Kay, the voice of the Yankees, and he literally said Boone is managing literally how the front office wants him to. They get to these little playoff meetings, and he does, they pre-map out what he's going to do. And he said in his press conference, we had planned that this is what we're going to do at this point, and this is what we're going to do. And whatever they're planning doesn't work because you haven't won a title since 2009. We need something new.
Won't disagree with you there, my guy.
What is on your mind?
I'm going to be honest with you. It's a lot on my mind this week. One of the things that kind of made me say, and it also reminded me of one of your favorite statements. This is why we can't have nice things. So for those of you that are following the WNBA, one of the stars, Nafisa Collier, who's also the WNPA vice president did something that was a little out of character. She's known as being a little bit more humble, a little bit more low key, if you will. But she basically called out the WNBA leadership and said that this is the worst leadership I've seen in any avenue of life, of any type of business of any kind. She went scorched earth on her exit interview, essentially, and a lot of her counterparts are following her. Four-time MVP Asia Wilson said, "Hey, this is Fee's wheelhouse. She's the businesswoman of the group. Also, the young lady who partnered to start the Unrivaled League. So she has a league of her own that she can compare how things are handled from one to another. But it was interesting because in this situation and in many others, we find ourselves at a fork in the road where it's kind of a, okay, am I just the me that I'm normally am, or do I have to come out of my shell and speak up about what is clearly wrong and just be okay with what comes with it? And a lot of the things that she has beef with, if you will, are some of the things that may be holding the WNBA back in general. So I'm glad that she spoke up, and I'm glad that she did it when there was a microphone in her face and not just Twitter thumbs or anything like that. But yeah, that was one of the things that kind of stood out this week for me. Other than the norm, that was a little bit outside of the norm. But yeah. So let's go ahead and hop into.
Think,
Okay.
real quick, I got to ask. So, a little bit. Well, two things. One, I very much like that she did speak out. Too often players don't say what's on their mind or are concerned about the backlash for saying their truth. I like that she had the courage to stand up to say what she felt was right. And clearly, the majority of people out there sided with her. So that speaks volumes as well. Real quick, before we move to the good word, who you got in the WNBA finals? The Aces of the Mercury.
Aces. Yep. Asia's going to get her MVP and her championship this year.
Kind of sounds something that like MJ used to do.
BK, this is why you can't have nice things, okay?
You made that
Here
so
we are.
easy. You put it on a tee for me there. And unlike the Yankees, I'm not missing these bitches. To the good word in the NFL. So the Ravens are off to a 1-3 start. What's wrong with the Ravens, and is it fixable? Besides the obvious, Lamar's out for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Lamar is likely out until week 8. They have a bye week, week 7. He won't be playing this week, which will be week 5. He's likely out until week 8. And most teams that start out 0-2, 1-3, don't make the playoffs. The likelihood of them winning all of the games that they have from here going forward, while he's out, is slim to none. So is it fixable? Sure. Will it matter? Nah, because they're not going to make the playoffs this year, unfortunately. Unless there's some huge stumble at the top of the division, which is possible for them, because right now at the top of the division are the Pittsburgh Steelers. They can easily have a quarterback or additional running back issues that can flip that division upside down. We know Burrow isn't coming back. Like, that whole division is up for grabs. So maybe something happens there. Maybe that puts it in the fixable mind frame. But outside of something else crazy happening within the division, highly unlikely that they're going to be able to fix it. Moreover, it's their defense that had them losing while Lamar was out on the field. They're at the back end of just about every defensive matrix. And I don't know if you already have the Jimmys and Joes that there's enough X's and O's to change around to make them better than what you've seen. So I don't think it's going to be fixable.
No, I think that's spot on. They were already in trouble before the injury, but who would have thought heading into week 5, based on active quarterbacks in their division, that Aaron Rodgers would be the best available quarterback in that division? That's crazy. Um,
Yeah.
um, but that said, I agree with you. The Ravens are in trouble. Their defense has been awful. This is not the 2000 Ravens defense or any stretch of a competent defense. They are getting gashed. And to be honest, Lamar has really struggled. Lamar's even struggled throwing the football this year as well, prior to the injury. But I just think I hate to paint with the broad brush here, but I think that some years in sports are just not your years. And this just has the feeling that something's just not right with these Ravens.
I can tell you this. Normally, when the Ravens have one of those years, and then you give them a bite at the apple at a draft towards the top, that don't normally work out well for the rest of the league. That's normally when they come back roaring and they fixed everything that ailed them. And they can find themselves in a similar situation. So this may be a setup for a propelling forward. So
Now, unfortunately, as the guru of fantasy football, and I know that's not what we do on this show, but there were 2 significant injuries this week at wide receiver. Yes, I'm sorry. The Yankees just took the lead. We're all fans here on this show. While we have a job to do, we still have fun. So
that part, we're not only clients, we're players.
But so thankfully we're off to an early lead or a neat lead. We need that. But Nabers and Tyreek Hill both out with season-ending ACL injuries. I think we both feel like the seasons were lost for both these teams in terms of like a playoff hope or aspirations. So it doesn't really change how awful the forecast is for 2025. But I got to tell you, first of all, that Tyreek Hill injury was gruesome. Like, that just was awful. What do you make of these injuries and how bad is it for these 2?
The one that's worse may not be the one that you think is worse. Tyreek Hill, his career may be done. However, he's already had a Hall of Fame career. Malik Nabers has had 2 season-ending injuries. Is it? I think he's been out 3 years now. Like he's had significant injuries twice now. The reason why, in my humble opinion, the Nabers injury is a little bit more troubling is because one more of those, and I got to put you on my list as being injury prone. And we're not talking about sprained ankles here. We're talking about months out, several seasons at this point. That kind of scares me because the Giants need him. Like he's exactly what they need on offense, as long as he'll be around to be on the offense. Like they don't want the wide receiver version of Saquon of years past. To whereas when he's out there, he is your offense, but when he's gone, you're sputtering because you don't know what else to do. So I hope that isn't the setup that the Giants find themselves in. But as far as Miami and the Giants, I didn't have either one of them, as you said, has been a playoff team before the season even started. So how far can you fall when you weren't ever going to be that high to begin with? maybe another one of those you're better off being able to draft where you're going to be able to draft to attempt to turn your team around a lot faster. That's kind of where I am with Miami and with the Giants in general, before and after the injury. But now, instead of having an excuse, at least you have a reason for why you're going to lose.
Know that part. So let's talk about the Packers because, they started out as like world beaters as they blew out the Lions at home to start the season. They followed that up with an impressive win over the Commanders at home where they looked really good. And it's amazing. All of a sudden, then they went on the road and they found a way to lose to the Browns in a game that they had no business losing. And then they followed up with just a dreadful performance against the Cowboys where they got a tie of all things. So, what do you think of the Packers? Are they as good as they were to start the year? Are they? Should we expect them to be up and down this year? Like, what is your read on the Packers and what we should see for the rest of the year?
Well, first and foremost, never believe anything that you see in week 1 and 2, good, bad, or indifferent. It's basically the first 3-4 weeks of the season at this point are now pretty much preseason. So take whatever you see with a grain of salt. I didn't believe it when I saw it to begin with. I kind of feel like they were on the Micah Parsons high, if you will, and now they're kind of starting to settle down a little bit. And but don't hear what I'm not saying. I do believe that they're a playoff team, and I do believe that if they fix a couple of little hiccups here and there, that they can actually be a deep playoff team with the way things are looking right now for several teams that we thought were going to be top of the top. But I just kind of have a feeling that it'll be 9 times out of 10 injury that derails Green Bay, as it normally does. Either the quarterback, running back, or one of the best wide receivers ends up hurt, or several of them do. But I Al Pacino in a well-known movie said it best. Any given Sunday, don't ever assume that a pro team can't beat another pro team, especially in the sport of football. We might be seeing a little bit more of that this evening with the 49ers and Rams. Right now, the 49ers are looking like the better team, and they have several people that are out, including their 2 of their starting wide receivers and their starting quarterback. And as of right now, they look like the better team. So you can never just assume that, the team in front of you, regardless of their record, won't be able to put their foot up your behind. And I think they went into Cleveland feeling as if they had already run that game. And then after taking that L and realizing that you aren't invincible, they just kind of lost their next fight. So it was a coachable moment. And I think they'll be better off for it in the long run versus thinking that they're better than what they actually are.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to ultimately be a playoff team currently in the way, way, way too early NFL season. In the NFC, for me, I have them as the third best team. I think the Eagles are 1, the Lions are 2. I would probably put the Packers 3 at this point, mostly because while I love Washington, both in terms of as a fan and also as a team, missing Daniels, they're not the same team without him. So I need to see a healthy McLaurin and a healthy Daniels and see them get back to where they need to be. Little surprise with the Rams' performance too, because they have the weapons to be very dangerous, as we saw last year in the NFC playoffs. But it's a long season. We shall see.
And right now, it's only a 7-point game, just so we're on the same page. So the Rams can still win. And I can't, in good faith, put Green Bay in front of the Rams unless the Rams lose tonight, because the Rams, the Rams are not a give me field goal, but a very makeable field goal away from putting a blemish on the Eagles' records. And right now being 4-0 instead of 3-1, and we'd be having a completely different conversation. So I can't not have the Rams as one of the better teams when one of the teams that I do feel is the better team, they could beat if it went for a punt block. So
yeah, I mean, to be honest, the Rams just played an awful fourth quarter in Philly. Like when you're up, 26-7 in the fourth quarter, like you've got to win that game.
it was a
Like
meltdown for sure.
so that's one. And by the way, it's one that I think could very much impact playoff seeding for them later in the season as well. That's one of those games they're going to look back and say, like, this is one we should have had. So
I can see that.
Well, turning to the college gridiron, who is more impressive? Quack, quack, the Ducks or Alabama?
I'm a roll with the Ducks. And the reason I'm going to roll with the Ducks is because I can't give Bama credit when I don't think Georgia is the school that everyone thought they were going to be coming into the year. So I feel like the Georgia-Bama game could have gone either way because both of them are just above mediocre. That's where they are this year.
So can I just interrupt you, buddy, for a second?
Sure.
Did you just watch that big 2-run base hit?
I did not. I'm watching the football game actually. So we're both watching something that outside of the show that is distracting both of us, but not the same thing. And with that being said,
we're looking squirrel.
With that being said, we are sports fans first. So
well, and you did
the show may be interrupted with a live update that you've already seen at any given point. So.
But to your point, hey, it's that time of the year where there's a lot going on.
It's a lot going on. I've been more impressed with Penn State to date than I have with Bama or Georgia. And for Oregon to go into a whiteout, and for those of you that don't follow Big Ten football, it's hard to win in Penn State in a whiteout, period. Unless you're Ohio State, and it's just another game. But that's a difficult environment to win in. And I feel right now that the Ducks have a higher ceiling than Bama does. And I feel that Penn State has a higher ceiling than Georgia does. Ergo, the more impressive win, got to roll with the Ducks.
Yeah, so we have the same answer here, but I'm going to approach it a little differently.
Okay.
So for me, you and I talk about, I talk about it, and you have to listen to me babble about it in fairness. But I talk about in college football all the time where there's helmet games, where a team sees a helmet and they just don't win that game. And Georgia's literally gotten beat by Bama 10 of the last 11 times. And so it used to just mostly be in the SEC title game. Now it's like gone to the regular season now. And even Kalen DeBoer is beating them, Kirby Smart and the Dogs. Georgia just sees that. And look, it was a very close game. Anybody could have won the game. So it's not like it's a blowout. But Bama just beats Georgia, it seems like, all the time, 10 out of 11. So that's really not much of a mystery to me, especially after watching Georgia give up 41 to Tennessee the previous game. Like, Tennessee's got an offense, but 41 against Georgia, who's supposed to have a good defense, that's concerning. But to me, the more impressive win is the Ducks. Going on the road, your first road game of the year. Remember, Bama had to play at Florida State, so it wasn't their first road game of the year. The Ducks, This is their first, well, let me rephrase that. To be technically accurate, the Ducks did go on the road at Northwestern, which is kind of like the Ducks going on to your local high school for the road game. So, come on. That being said, first real road game of the year for the Ducks, and they played great. I was really impressed with what they did. And Penn State does what they do in these big games under Franklin. They're very conservative early. They don't score a lot of points. They dig themselves a hole. And while they were valiant in their comeback effort, it's not enough. And the Ducks just do what they always do since they've come to the Big Ten, which is in every regular season game, the Ducks win. Really impressed with the Ducks. Now, from a disappointment standpoint, let's flip the script. Between Penn State, Georgia, who we just talked about, both of those teams, LSU, who lost a tough one in Oxford against Ole Miss, or the Trojans, who found a way to lose a meaningful game, which of those do you think was the biggest disappointment, and why?
Georgia. The disappointment stems from the expectation that Kirby Smart in Georgia was supposed to be the new Nick Saban and Bama when Saban left. And you're letting the team that just lost to Florida State, who just lost to what school of the blind did y'all lose to here?
Virginia.
Yeah, that school of the blind. Yeah, that dog don't hunt. And I know the transitive property isn't one that you should probably use on football. You lost to them and they beat them and all that kind of going on down the line. But for you to lose to the team that lost to Virginia and then come back for Kirby Smart to get the crap kicked out of him by same said team, no, that has to hurt. That has to hurt. It's just the expectation. Penn State, that game went to what, double overtime? How can you be disappointed in that? You know what I mean? Like, not to put it like this: the fact that James Franklin took a top 10 team to double overtime should actually be a feather in his cap, because that's a lot better than he's done against most top 10 teams here in the last decade. So I can't be disappointed when what normally happened, but he did it in such a way that I don't even think they should be as far down in the rankings as they are right now. Double overtime, like that's pretty. I looked at that as being apropos. So in USC, who is USC? They couldn't disappoint me if they wanted to, because I have zero expectation for them. So LSU, close loss. I didn't think there was going to be much to write home about from the beginning. Could be classified as most disappointing because they were the great hope of the SEC for this year. And I don't know that there is any hope, because Texas ain't Texan, Bama ain't Baman, Georgia ain't Georgian. Like, the SEC is just not what they used to be. You can't see them the same way you used to. I'm sorry, you just can't.
So for me, the answer is Georgia, mostly because there's certain schools where the expectations are different. And given the fact that they not too long ago won back-to-back titles and narrowly missed a chance for a third, it's a game at home you have to have if you have the aspirations you do, which is to win the SEC and win the title. I'm not surprised that LSU lost at Ole Miss. LSU's offense has been dormant literally all season long. And it's hard to win in Oxford with Lane Kiffin. So, there. So, and to your point, Southern Cal, it was a noon kickoff, which means for them, it was 9 a.m. Pacific time, which is an early wake-up call the week after Illinois got embarrassed on the road. So you knew they would play with a lot more energy and passion and determination than the prior week when they got taken to the woodshed. And, Penn State, I guess if you're a fan of Penn State, it's a disappointment because it's another miss, but it was an expected outcome. Franklin in a big game loses. So if it's a top 10 team, they're going to lose. And until you see otherwise, it's a loss. So, and I bet accordingly. So, yeah, not, disagree with that. Georgia's the answer. And to be honest, I don't even think it's really close if we're being honest.
The only way there's an avenue, and that avenue completely depends upon fanhood and what your expectations were prior to the game. Outside of that, objectively speaking, gotta be Georgia.
So I don't say this often on the show, but prior to the John Mateer injury at Oklahoma,
okay,
who vaulted himself into, at the time of the injury, some legitimate conversation as a Heisman hopeful, which makes sense. You're the star quarterback on a top 10 team. Makes sense that you would get some consideration. But now and I say where I was going to say I was going to admit I was wrong about Oklahoma and that they're actually playing much better than I thought, mostly because the quarterback's a lot better than I thought. Then he gets injured. He's likely out at least 3 weeks after having surgery on his broken right thumb. Now, this week, they get a bye. They get Can't Read, Can't Write, Kent State. So, but that's the former Akron alum in me coming out there. My apologies. But then the remaining schedule is Texas at South Carolina, Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at Bama, Missouri, and LSU. So, he better come back quick, and he better come back healthy, or this dream start is going to be quickly forgotten. How much does this impact the Sooner season, buddy?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. Heisman hopeful, yes. Playoff spot available? I didn't think they were going to make it to the playoffs even if he's healthy. How important is it for him to come back? If they want to be top 20 by the end of the year, he needs to be in for the majority of their games. As down as the SEC is, Oklahoma is even down harder. So the upper echelon of the SEC, I still don't see them necessarily being able to hang with. So, yeah, it's vitally important that he's what gives them the fighting chance to be able to make something shake in the season that people didn't see that team coming.
So I'm going to ask you this real quick. I'm going to throw you a curveball. So if I were to stack rank, well, I just turned football into the commission rankings. But if I were to stack rank the Big Ten and the SEC and combine them, all right? So I would have in some particular order, Ohio State, Oregon is the top 2. Okay. And then after that, I would probably have 5 teams before I'd have the next Big Ten team, which would be Penn State. Because I think that Alabama, Georgia, again, I can't trust Franklin in a big game. And their quarterback play 3 points through 3 quarters doesn't do me a whole lot of good if I'm Penn State. So I just sit there and I say to myself, I think that Bama, Georgia, A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, I would probably say all of them have an argument to be better than Penn State. I would not put any of them above Ohio State or Oregon, but I would have them all ahead of Penn State.
I know we don't look at early season rankings, obviously.
Correct.
But just hear me out.
I'm gonna not
If
like
a team that you have number 2 overall in your stack, right,
right.
had to go to 2 overtimes to beat a team that you don't think is as good. Bama just lost to Florida State. Penn State lost to Oregon in double overtime. But that one loss puts them behind a Bama that lost to Florida State, puts them behind a Georgia that lost to Bama, puts them behind like you're gonna have to help me see your vision here, because what I see on the field and the way this stack is stacking, it ain't quite the same. Because if Oregon is as good as you would have us believe, Penn State can't be as bad as you would have us believe. Just saying.
I think that for me, I think there's clear separation between Oregon, Ohio State, and the rest of the teams that we discussed.
How, when another team just played them and they went to double overtime?
Because it was misleading. Oregon was up 17-3 before Penn State pulled a comeback out of their ass to force overtime. Let's be clear. It was 17-3 at home in the fourth quarter. So, yes, if you were to look at the final outcome of it, did Penn State make it competitive? Sure, of course. At the end of the day, though, the Ducks from start to finish were the better team in a wasn't going to beat them. And the game wasn't really competitive for 3 quarters. So congratulations for making it look pretty, but you still lost. I'm not going to give you credit for crapping your pants for 3 quarters at home in a big game, and then
I can respect that. I can respect that. But
I'm
but
not
then
saying and make no mistake, these SEC teams, just to be clear here, are flawed teams. LSU can't score. Ole Miss finally beat somebody in LSU, right? But how good is LSU? They barely beat a Clemson team that's not very good. A South Florida, so
I guess the only thing that I'm saying is, if you're gonna beat up Penn State for playing like trash for 3 quarters, I can't beat up on Georgia and Bama even more for playing like crap for 4 quarters.
So I'm going to do something that I normally don't do when I respond.
I'm scared.
You should be. I know that we're talking specifically about this year, right? So
right, yeah.
this year, but where my mindset is going, just to kind of, fill you in and the audience of where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia has won national titles. Bama's won a lot of national titles in recent years. When I look at a team like Penn State, they're like always the bridesmaid, but never the bride. Like they're never winning anything that really matters. They win 10 games every year, and they never sniff a championship. They're not winning the Big Ten conference because the Buckeyes owned them, and now Oregon owns them. So now and to be honest, they never even usually beat Michigan. So they're like 4th in the Big Ten.
But to be fair, the 2 teams that own them, according to you, are the 2 best teams in the country. So I mean they own everybody at the moment.
But what I'm saying is, I've seen Bama play meaningful games and win. I've seen Georgia win meaningful games. I've seen these other teams win meaningful games. LSU's won a national title. So with the Fighting Joe Burrows. So I say that to say that they can, they want to. I haven't seen Penn State win anything meaningful in a long time. And so, and yes, most schools would love to go 10-2 every year. Don't get me wrong. I get it. I'm not pissing on Penn State in terms of their program or how much success they have. Going 10-2 every year is very successful. But he's also getting himself in hot water there because he has all these great teams, and all these years he's in the top 10 and top 5, and he can't beat the Ducks or the Bucks. And look, most teams aren't beating the Ducks or the Bucks, to your point. But at some point, if you're winning all these games, you got to break through. If you're never breaking through, then that's a problem.
I don't disagree with any of that. I don't. And there's a place for all of that, just not in this conversation, because it has nothing to do with who's the better team this year. So everything that you said was true. Spot on. Has nothing to do with who has the better team this year.
Well, in
but
fairness,
thanks for sharing.
Let's go back to this year now that you've reined me in. In the 3 marquee matchups this week, who you got in Vandy versus Bama in a rematch of last year's upset? Miami at Florida State, and Texas heads to Gainesville to face the Gators.
Give me Bama, Miami, and Texas. Whether or not they'll cover the spread or not, I have no idea. That's your department. But money line, Bama, Miami, and Texas. And because you're normally not right with 3 instinct calls, I'm going to flip the Bama to Vandy for betting purposes. But gut purposes, Bama, Miami, Texas.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about
I knew you were going to say
the betting angles later. But I will say this. One of the best bets we had earlier in the year was Florida under 7.5 wins. Because we looked at the schedule and we said, there's no way with the toughest schedule in the country, and Billy Napier still is your head coach, that you're going to win 8 games with that schedule. And they're 1-3, and they still have to play Texas and Georgia and all this gauntlet of games. Like, they're going to be lucky to win 5 games this year. In fact, I don't even see a pathway they're going to get to 5. But that said, Texas is going to beat Florida. I think Texas's defense is going to be the best unit on the field. And look, Florida's defense is really good. They've played great this year. Quietly, they've been great. They're not the problem. It's the offense is bad. And Lagway, against worse defenses, has played awful. Even with the week off, knowing that he's still battling some segment of a portion of an injury, I just think Texas is too talented, too good. They're going to get a statement win in Gainesville. Bama's not going to lose to Vandy 2 years in a row. But what I will say is, because I can assure you that game has been circled on their calendar since last year. I can promise you that. But that said, this line is disrespectful. Vandy's in some places, Vandy was a 13-point underdog at Alabama. Like,
easy money.
Like,
easy
that's
money.
disrespectful.
This ain't Nick Saban's Alabama.
No.
Add a teaser to that, and that's the closest to a guaranteed bet as you're gonna get this week.
Here's what I'll say as a current quarterback of Florida State said. Nick Saban's not there anymore to save you. And he's right. So let's get to Miami and the Noles. So Florida State, the only loss I had last week was the only loss in what was almost a perfect week. There was some spotty officiating. They got screwed on some calls, which is to be expected when you sue the ACC. But I was concerned about Florida State looking ahead to Miami because you knew this was the game they had. Like, primetime game at home against their rival who's highly ranked. Like, you knew that they were going to be ready for this game. It's hard to get ready for a nobody in Virginia, which is Virginia's Super Bowl because they're not going anywhere. So I don't have a best bet for this. I'm going to say that, so this is just going to be a lean here. I feel like I'm going to throw up in my mouth as saying this, but I do think that the game is won and lost in the trenches. And I just think that Miami's a little bit better. No, not a little bit better. They're quite a bit better, particularly on the line of scrimmage, than Florida State. I think that's the difference in this game. I think Miami is going to escape with a win in Tallahassee. It's going to be close. It's going to be a really good game. I think
Mic
Miami
check,
finds a way
check.
to win.
October the 2nd, 2025, 9:51 p.m. BK Wins just said on wax that FSU sucks and Miami's going to kick their tail. I just want to make sure that we're getting that for the record.
I did not say that.
That's all I heard.
I would never, ever say my Knowles suck. Even when
That's what I heard.
But I do think
maybe my Google translator's on the fritz, but I
do
wonder, the
one thing I worry about Miami in this game is the same thing I worried about Florida State last week. First conference, and Saban and Kirby Smart always talked about this, and it's so true. First road game of the year, particularly conference road game. How does Miami, even though it's in Florida, I understand, but a road game with everything to lose on the road, how do they play that game? I do want, and they still have Cristobal as coach. And while, again, I feel like I'm going to throw up in my mouth, I very much like the Canes roster, but they still have Cristobal as head coach, and he's still garbage. And that's a problem. It's kind of like the Aaron Boone of the Hurricanes. Like, you got to win despite your coach, and that's a challenge. So I do wonder about that.
I'm not mad at all.
Well, let's move to the truth and nothing but the truth.
Absolutely. What we got at first?
So, back to baseball. Who wins the AL MVP? Is it the Judge or is it Cal Raleigh?
So here's the thing, right? If you go based on home runs, then Kyle Raleigh should win. I think is he what, like end of the season 7 or 8 home runs above Judge?
Yeah, 60 to 53.
Gotcha. Okay. So, but opposite and equal, just about every other important stat, Judge won. So it's like, do you give the guy in the category that sticks out the most who hasn't won one before his first, or do you give the guy that could possibly win any year that he's seeming have any semblance of health that they can win any year? I mean, I don't know. I'm going to lean Riley, so that way if I'm wrong, my guy gets it, and I don't feel like I jinxed him because I picked him. So I'm going to go with the long ball. I'm going to go with Riley in the hopes that I'm wrong. And it goes to Judge.
So
that was a horrible hedge of bets, but yes, I did just do that. BK.
Welcome to the Zay logic. See, this, folks, is what I have to deal with. We don't want
to
we don't want to pick Judge who we want and think should get it because we don't want to jinx him. This is the answers I get.
It's what you call a win-win. It's like when you bet against your team. If they win and you lose money, you feel like you bought the win, and you got to be okay with that. If they lose, you got paid, so you can't be as sad as you would have been if they hadn't. So, yes, Zay Logic says that you had your bet, and either way it goes, you have a silver lining in a dark cloud.
So, I know being obviously a huge Yankees fan, you would think that this would be an emphatic Judge. And I will tell you that I do think that Judge should win the MVP.
If he loses, it's your fault. Thanks a lot. Go ahead.
And I'm going to outline in a moment a lot of reasons why he's going to win. And make no mistake, he will win. And it was a best bet many months ago.
Never mind. I'm changing my mind. I just changed my mind. If it was the best bet, I'm going with the best bet. All your long-term best bets to date this year have. If am I making that up? I think I'm telling the truth when I say all of your futures bets from earlier in the year. You had Asia Wilson. You had you had Paige Beckers. It was another.
Well, I got 2 Asia Wilsons because I had her for both Defensive Player of the Year,
Defensive Player of the Year, and MVP. Yeah, so that's So all of the long-term bets you put out there so far, why not throw Judge in there? Yeah, never mind. I changed my mind. You see, I just did. Now I hedged my bet 3 ways.
I don't know it's going to be this easy. But for those of you out there who aren't as convinced, so the one thing I dislike about this conversation is when we're forced to pick somebody, I don't want to discredit the other player. Kyle Raleigh has had an absolutely one-of-a-kind, sensational, amazing year. He deserves all the credit, praise, adulation, and kudos that he gets. For a catcher to play almost every game this year and hit 60 home runs and lead the American League in RBIs as well at the toughest, physically most demanding position there is crazy, scary good. But the reason why I'm siding with Judge is because of a couple reasons. The award stands for the most valuable player. If I take off Raleigh off the Mariners, they're still a really good team. They have great starting pitching. They have a great they have the best bullpen in the American League. Well, the Guardians are right there as well. So, but the Guardians and Mariners are 1A at bullpen. They have a lights out bullpen. They have plenty of offensive weapons. Julio Rodriguez, aka J-Rod, like they got bats. But if you take Judge off the Yankees, we've seen that movie before. It's not a pretty sight. And so he led the American League in hitting at 331, highest average by 18 points. He hit 53 home runs and hit 331. He led the league in runs scored. He has the highest OPS. He has the highest slugging. He has the highest WAR. He has the highest OPS plus. I could go on, but I'm going to stop. The only reason why you won't give him the MVP is one of 2 reasons. Voter fatigue, because he's already won it multiple times and you're just tired of him winning it. Or 2, you're going to overinflate the value that Kyle Raleigh has at catcher and forget about all these other stats that he's getting crushed at by like 100 points, 150 points. Like, it's not, and by the way, look at batting average. 331 to 245. Like, all these stats are not even close. I don't even think it's that competitive. I think it's going to be the Judge. And as you always said, it was BK best bet, so that's
the people didn't even need to hear all the actual facts. The only thing you need to do is remind them that it was a BK best bet. We're believers at this point, man. Like, what are we doing? Like, screw the
Um,
facts. If BK said it, I believe it.
well, I'm going to ask you two quick baseball questions before we move
Okay.
on. So, biggest disappointment: the Mets, Astros, or Tigers? We'll start there.
I'm gonna roll with the Mets because it felt like they were on pace and had the pulse to be able to do something special this year. And they definitely spent the money to be to that they should have been able to do something. And they were in position. So Astros, I'll chalk that up to karma. Like anytime that they have a meltdown or lose, it's going to be, well, yeah, because you got your winning when you weren't supposed to be. So that's never going to surprise me or disappoint me ever. And Tigers, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't really follow the Tigers close enough to really even know how bad of a um, end of year they had to kind of get them to where they are versus where they were. But the Mets, I kind of paid a little bit more attention to because if you're a Yankees fan, you know that that's like the crosstown rival or whatever you want to call it. So pay a little bit more attention to them. But let me ask you the same question because you kind of pay attention to all things baseball. Who was your biggest disappointment?
Um, I, I honestly think, and it's not even close, it's the Mets. They spent all, like, it was such a huge deal for them to, in their mind, steal Juan Soto from the Yankees. For them to get Juan Soto and spend all that money on him and not make the playoffs, especially through 70 games of the year, they had the best record in baseball. Like 70 games
Yeah.
is almost halfway through, 81, but still not far off from halfway through the season. They had the best record, and then they just went on a meltdown. And I just, for them to miss the playoffs is inexcusable. The Astros, they had a 5-game lead in September and blew that to the Mariners. Injuries derailed them, though. Alvarez being out for an extended time, Pena missed a lot of time. Injuries just really derailed them. The Tigers, I can't consider them because despite their epic collapse, blowing a 10.5 game lead over the Guardians on September 1st and losing the division, they still made the playoffs and, in fact, ousted the same Guardians today in a winner go home to advance in the playoffs. So, they still made the playoffs and advanced in the postseason, so that can't count as a failure. It's the Mets. It's the Mets. And that's something that people won't forget anytime soon.
Well, last part of truth and nothing but the truth. MLB playoff preview. Who wins the AL and NL pennant? AL, we got the Blue Jays, the Mariners, the Guardians, the Yankees, the Sox, Tigers. NL, Brewers, Phillies, Dodgers, Cubs, Padres, Reds.
So I know, buddy, that I don't do this very often, but due to time, I'm going to be very concise. Good thing you're sitting
Okay.
down. But so I had the winners of this being the Yankees at the Blue Jays, the Guardians at the Mariners, the Cubs at the Brewers, and the Dodgers at the Phillies. I had the Yankees beating the Blue Jays, the Mariners beating the Tigers. I had the Yankees then playing the Mariners and the Yankees going to the World Series. I had the Brewers beating the Cubs. I got to tell you, the hardest series for me is the Phillies and the Dodgers. To me, that is the NLCS. The winner of that series is going to the World Series. I honestly think the Phillies are the better team, but I also know the Phillies usually find a way to piss this away. So I'm going to take, even though I hate going with a rematch, I'm actually going to take the Yankees and the Dodgers to repeat.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being half right. A half right is better than being all the way wrong. So, yes, Dodgers, Yankees, and Yankees for the win. See how concise I was with that one? I went through the whole thing real quick. Yeah. I even got a little jab in there, and all in 30 seconds. That got to be some kind of a record, okay? So, with that being said, it is now one of the times we enjoy most in the show, and that's our all-time top 5 of something. And this week, it is our top 5 all-time TV sports characters.
So before we begin, I channeled my inner Zay. And while I don't have any honorable mention, I bent the rules a little bit.
Of course you did, BK.
So,
And then you blamed it on me to boot. But go
you're
on.
not trying hard enough. I learned if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. So, I adjusted it a little bit to the top 5 all-time TV/movie sports characters.
Oh no way! No, that's bringing in that's somebody that's you giving someone else your ID and taking the SEC for you. That's far beyond the pale of cheating. You can't add movies. You know how much easier that. You know how much research I had to do to come up with 5 for TV specifically.
You know how much less research I had to do?
Yeah, I got an idea because the first 5 people that came to my mind were all movie guys and not TV guys. So yeah, a little bit.
So I'll
This guy.
So let's point this out there for all the good people. So Zay's list is going to be much better and much more well thought out, and my list was much more efficient. And we both
I don't know. We'll see. Because I'm changing somebody on my list right now in light of the new rules. Like literally as we speak, I'm changing somebody.
Well, while you do that, I'll start. So
who you got first?
My number 5 is Dottie Hinson, aka Gina Davis, in A League of Their Own. Is number 5 all-time sports characters in a movie. Like, you got to have her on the list. I can just feel the disdain for all of you who are...
No, not even that. It's just that now I got to change my whole list on the spot because the movie guys are way better than the TV guys. So now I have to, but I have one guy that's actually both. So he's going to remain number 1 on my list. So I still beat you there, BK. So number 5 on my list, Jamie Foxx, Any Given Sunday, Willie Beeman. Yes, sir. Definitely one of my favorite top 5 TV sports characters. Willie Beeman, Any Given Sunday.
I love it. I'm all for it.
Number 4 for you.
My number 4. Shake and Bake. Ricky Bobby. Talladega Nights. I love that movie. So, yeah.
You know what, BK? Let me tell you why I don't like you right now. You've lowered my character by like 10 points in the last 5 minutes because first I had to cheat to catch up. And now I'm still in the catch up because Ricky Bobby is now on my list because he should be. And I didn't think about it because I didn't have the time to come up with it because I didn't know we were doing movies. So number 4 for me, Ricky Bobby. Shake it back.
OMG.
And with that being said, number 3 for me, Sylvester Stallone, Rocky Balboa, has to be one of the better or best sports characters of all time, for sure.
Love it. Love it. My number 3, I love this movie. And I'm a big Adam Sandler fan, especially back in his older movies.
I knew
Happy
it.
Gilmore.
I knew it. I knew it.
Happy Gilmore. I love that. Like, what a great, like, Adam Sandler knocked that role out of the park. So, yeah, he's my number 3. Who you got for yours?
So my number 3 is Rocky Balboa.
Number 2?
My number 2, BK, hear me as I say this. Mind your manners. Mind your manners, okay? My number 2 is Michael Jordan, Space Jam's Michael Jordan as himself. Moving on. Who's your next up? I don't need any comments, emotional outbursts, or anything of that nature as far as my answer is concerned. Moving right along now.
My number 2. I love this, and you can't be from Cleveland and not love this movie. Wild Thing and Ricky
Wild Things
in Major League. Wild Thing. Like, he is
Charlie Sheen, right?
Yes. Absolutely a must-have. On my already
not mad at that. Not mad at that at all, for sure.
Who you got at number 1?
Number 1, who was my number 1 before I got the news that we were changing the rules, and he's even more my number 1 now, Johnny Lawrence, the Karate Kid. One of my favorite sports characters of all times. And when I say spans literally generations, you can watch Cobra Kai today with your kids. And they'll love it. You will too. Like it goes from early 80s to 2025. What other sports character has had that much depth and breadth and adaptivity, if you will, over the last several decades? I had to be number 1 for me.
No, I'm with you. I mean, that's a great answer. My number 1 is someone you mentioned earlier. Rocky Balboa is my number 1. I don't need any explanation other than that. Rocky's number 1.
It is time for everyone's favorite part of the show, the part where we get money for listening to BK. No pressure, but make sure all of your bets are right. Go ahead, BK. What's your best bets for this week?
Well, first of all, we talked earlier about, let's, throw me a little bit of a parade here. We hit Paige Beckers back in May for Rookie of the Year, Asia Wilson, Defensive Player of the Year, and League MVP for a 4th time. She's about to close in on another championship, which is, by the way, not a best bet, but what's going to happen. However, this week's best bets. So I have a bunch of them. We're first going to start in the Major League Baseball. There's just one. Now that the Mariners are playing the Tigers in the ALDS, give me the Mariners to win that series. Money line win over the Tigers. The Tigers, they have the best pitcher in Skubal, but they don't have enough to beat the Mariners on the road. I like the Mariners to advance pretty easily to the ALCS. That's best bet in baseball. In the NFL, we have 4 teaser bets and 3 straight bets. The teaser bets, the Colts money line, the Lions -4, the Bills -1.5, and Minnesota Cleveland. The total for that game is 36. I moved it to 42. Both these teams have great defenses. Gabriel's going to come in he's officially starting for the Browns. No more Flacco, which probably means 13 less turnovers for the Vikings defense. And I'm not really sure the Vikings or how well they're going to be able to score on the Browns defense, who has a great defense. I don't see a pathway for these teams to get to 42. In fact, I don't think they're going to get to 36, but just to be safe, we'll make it 42. But those are the teaser bets. The straight bets. Give me the Texans to beat the Ravens, the Lamarless Ravens, the Chiefs. They're a different team now that Worthy's back. You can see just how good they are. The Chiefs, give me the Chiefs in the money line to get it done. And the Chargers at home, they're going to beat the Commanders. It looks like Mariota's going to play again. I don't know how healthy McLaurin is. In either case, the Chargers are really good, especially at home. They've already beat the Chiefs. They beat the Broncos, who are both going to be playoff teams. I like the Chargers money line. And then real quick, NCAA straight bets, Texas money line, teaser bets, BYU minus 12.5, Iowa State plus 7.5 at Cincinnati, Illinois minus 2 and a potential letdown at Purdue, aka Purdue, because they usually lose. Mississippi State plus 22.5 at A&M, Vandy plus 16.5 at Bama, and Ohio State, Minnesota have over 36. Now, I'm not going to play this because I'm going to do something that I very rarely do, which is put my emotions in this and not take the better bet. But it wouldn't be a bad play to take the Canes money line at Florida State. Again, not a play, not I'm going to do. I know the Noles are going to play really well. I know they're very, very motivated to win this game. And I do think the Noles are a really good team. They stumbled on the road in a tough situation for them. It was a trap game for sure. But Miami is really good. They are really good. And I just think Miami finds a way to win this game on the road. But again, not a best bet, but I'll throw that in there because I know you like that bet because anything that's not against Florida State, or anything against Florida State you love. So,
I mean, if you're right, you're right.
In fact, Vander and I were talking about this, and we would argue that you've changed the FSU instead of Florida to a different F word. I think that's probably apropos there.
Hey, all I know is I recognize greatness, and I don't see it down there in Florida State territory just yet. So we're going to continue to pray for your squad there and hope for the best. Maybe they have a quick turnaround. It's unlikely, but one can always have faith.
So two quick things: a question and an update. So for those of you who are wondering, we're in the bottom of the 7th in the Bronx, and our Yankees are up 4-0 over the Red Sox. We are now 6 outs away from advancing to the ALDS. And this is like a win-win, by the way, because we advance and the Red Sox lose, which is, is like the best of all scenarios. Because America just is a better place when the Red Sox lose. But
if the Yankees don't win, it'll be because BK just jinxed them. I don't
7 innings, 4-0. By the way, you notice you say this all the time, and I don't back off, and it doesn't change the outcome.
I don't know. We'll never know now, will we?
That said, question for you, though, back to Florida State, because I'm genuinely curious. Should Florida State beat Miami at home and then have wins over Bama and Miami, how much would a win at home over Miami change or impact your view of Florida State? Would you give them any credit for that win, or it's just still the same old thing? Doesn't matter.
You get credit for every win. You get credit for every loss. I just don't think that a win against Bama in Miami, which I don't have either very high in my list of confidence, says very much. I think they're all three names that we recognize, but their level of play isn't where it normally is. We're still allowing teams to live off of other teams' names instead of the talent that we see them going up against on the fields, which goes back to why they shouldn't be ranked until about now.
So then I lied. I have a follow-up question. So then what do you it sounds like you don't have much faith, or you would. Again, we don't really view the rankings really yet in our eyes, but it sounds like what you're saying is the Canes are overrated.
Yeah, simply put. Beck was on a better team last year. How is he going to save Miami and he couldn't save Georgia? What made Miami so special?
Much easier conference.
Yeah, so when it comes down to now you have to actually play teams that matter, i.e. the playoffs, you're going to get stumped. Like nothing's going to change. Indiana could beat Miami. And Illinois would give them a good run as well. That's how I feel about the level of talent in the ACC right now.
No, that's definitely
In
fair.
Georgia Tech undefeated and
Louisville.
Yeah, so no, that you get no brownie points for that. No.
And that's the truth.
And that about wraps up the show for today. We will be back to you on next week, going over all the goings on of the week. But for this evening, about wraps it up. And remember, always tell the truth and
nothing but the truth.
We out.
Go Yankees.